team, and I work here at Mint as Android developer. So let's start with a very hot topic with Gábor Bakos from Skyscanner. He will talk about the Android version of, and he will show some best practice with the new SDK. Sorry?
This is not working.
Okay, that's okay. Hey guys, my name is Gábor Bakos from Skyscanner. I'm a software engineer, and today I will talk about what you can do to stay ahead with the Marshmallow. Since the 6.0 release is upon us, it should be around November, but still there is no exact date. It is wise to review if our application is ready for the release itself. May I ask, how many of you tried out the SDK itself a bit deeper and with a bigger scope with the new SDK? Yeah, somebody else. Awesome. And have you seen some kind of build behavior?
Yeah, pretty much our app read from them.
Yeah, yes, actually that's one of the things that we'll talk about. Yeah. Yes, cool. So, yes, unfortunately we have few potential dangers out there that we need to cover and prepare because we have a nice new app permission model, which is actually great, but we need to take care about certain kind of edge cases that might crash and disrupt our full user experience. And there's a nice dose mode, which we expect to have more than twice as much battery usage that we have right now, but we'll see if it's worthy or not. So the first is the new permission model. Till that time, when we install the application, the application itself haven't installed directly, but the Play Store itself popped up a nice view that almost consumed almost the whole permission that we had before. Actually, we had 23 distinct permissions for almost everything, and now after this release, we will have 8 permission groups. Basically, these are the same permissions, almost the same permission group, but grouped into various groups. And also, what's important that the harmless permissions are removed from the permission pool, like the internet, because the internet permission won't break anything, but still that's basically the first thing that you are specifying in your manifest file. So it's just useless. And also, till that point, iOS had a nice feature called app permission on and off. So you can basically be able to grant and revoke your permissions runtime. So from that point, it will also inside your application. And also it's a new thing that we need to take cover when we develop our application. By default, everything is granted. So we need to take care runtime when we actually start using our application. And also it's a bit exotic to have it that not all intents and not all actions need permissions. Like from now on, we will be able to start create pictures without real intent, without real permissions, because the system-wide intents will allow us to have images from the camera itself. So how should I ask for permission? That's the thing. So first of all, building trust is the most important part here in Android M release. From that point, the privacy and the permission are the number one priority, and we really need to take care about this situation. For example, if you have a critical and most obvious permission that you need to use because, you have a chat application and you will need to, use a voice command that you must specify by start, and without that, of course, your application won't work. But also, you should scatter around your permission requests around the whole application, because we won't be able to just get every permissions at once with startup, but rather we will be able to get one by one each of them. I guess, and we can say that the user experience would be ruined if we just go over, 8 permission groups at once. So the user must click 8 times the allow button before he gets something in return. But it's also important that we should educate the user that why we are needing this feature. So because it would be ambiguous that, you have a nice application which shows your pictures, but still it want to grab your contacts. Why is it necessary for such that kind of application? So you need to have a nice onboarding experience that you will show to the user why it's important, why he will get in return for that one. I really like to emphasize on the never ask again checkbox, because it's not on the iOS, that you will be able to request twice from the user, and still from that point the user will be able to specify if he liked or if she liked to use it or not in the future. And how does it look like if the user just disallowed it? So from that point, we shouldn't fall in despair, because there are also certain kind of things that we can do. First of all, we will have a nice intent that we'll be able to use to jump into the app permission page, when we will be able to control the application permissions at once, and we'll be able to basically restate everything. But it's important, it is really unwise to use it and unfriendly, because that way the user experience and the flow will break, and also it goes back to the system-wide settings itself instantly. What you must take care when the user switch something on and off the permission page, or application will be killed instantly. And how does it look like on the code side itself? I have unfortunately a bad news for you, that the permissions are tied together with our activities. From now on, we won't be able to start up just services without any requests, because first we must ask permission for the check self-permission function on the activity. And also, in the new activities, of course, we are talking about the Android SDK 23, the new SDK, that it will come with a nice feature called request permission, that will pops up the previously seen pop-up dialog to request the actual feature that we have. There's also a really important thing here, that we won't be able to change these dialogues. These are system-wide dialogues. So for example, if you have a nice language localization system in place, then these things won't be localized that way, because the system itself will localize it based on the device language properties. So first of all, we're just creating a bunch of checks if we have the permission itself, and then we ask for it. And we have a nice callback also for these activities, that the only request permission result that we will get back a nice list with the permissions itself, if it's granted or not. But it's important that we take care with the third-party libraries also, because those stuff needs to get these permissions runtime from the activity itself. What will be handy at that point, that there will be a nice annotation called permission that will highlight it via lint, that these things will need the specific permission, that you'll be able to check it and you're able to handle it by yourself. And what about the legacy app, since I guess nobody is using SDK for newest SDK for various reasons, because it's buggy and so on. That's also covered with the new M. Everything is on by default as it used to before. And also it will have this nice Play Store page about the permission that it has. But still, the user will be able to switch it on and off, which basically might break our code if it doesn't take care about these problems. But is also important that the operation system itself will notify the user prepared for such purposes, that the user will switch it on and off for runtime, then your application will fail. So, in a nutshell, you should try out your application legacy mode and try out the new features and try out the branch out and come up with a nice user experience, how you can actually educate the user to get the recommended results. So, till that point, I had a nice Nexus 5 phone, and unfortunately around 3 p.m. Usually my battery drain, I wasn't able to use it. So from now on, the DOS and the app standby might solve this issue, since these stuff is to answer the question, where does the power go? So till that point, it's always working, so it's not relevant right now. But the CPU and the radio itself is draining and burning. access, and also it delays that if you have a background process, it might won't kick in, and it might won't happen, and might won't do nothing. And what is good here is that there will be maintenance windows when actually the device will be revived, and that time you will be able to sync your information. That's important that these windows are not linear at all, and it's also calculated by OS itself about if it's needed or not. But I need my usual refresh for my application. How will I refresh my data? So it's a good thing that before the real alarm clock kicks in, and the device will be eventually revived, and actually it will get everything till you waken up, and then you will touch your phone. But also, if you really need to get information, that you will be able to check these stuffs, we have a brand new function called set allow while idle. That way we will be able to wake up your device approximately 15 minutes each. And how can I test it? So because it's not a code-wise thing, that ADB is our best friend, and we have nice ADB commands when we'll be able to actually mock it out that we unplug, and we can step over these steps, and we'll be able to check if our services are intact and your services working according to it should be. And there's also a counterpart, because those is about really hardware, the CPU and the radio, but it just control the CPU usage. But still, there's another level of abstraction called app standby. So from the Android M release, we will have this nice thing that when our application will be considered idle after a short period of time, if our application is not active, so for example in foreground, or also if there is no notification on the notification tray itself. So what happens when the app standby kicks in, and those are also there. Also the syncs are also deferred, so there's a two-way sync that we need to take care of here, and also network access will be restricted like in DOS mode. But there's also another thing, that if the operation system won't kill and shut down the process itself, then our application will be able to refresh itself scarcely one operation daily. So right here, unfortunately, the developer documentation is not providing us too much information, other than it will happen once during a day, but there is no guaranteed thing here. But yeah, but I really need to see a notification, I really want to use or device. What I can do that here. So with the new M release, we get a new GCM mechanism called high priority message. If we get a new high priority message, then our application will be revived instantly, and our application will get the device, the information itself instantly. So it's really important that you should put as much information into these GCM messages, because further synchronization won't happen. So, and also because this whole function depends on GCM, that way the DOS mode and also the app standby will be available if you have GCM on your device. So basically, any other non-Google's authorized, not Google certified device won't be inside the scope at all. How can I test it? Basically, like before, with ADB. So in a nutshell, you should try your application against this new SDK really deeply, because these stuffs can be really hard to track if something is go out live. And really please try and prepare for the actual release when it will happen, but still we don't know that. So thanks for the attention, and if you have any question, I would be really gladly answer it if I can. Probably. Thank you very much. Okay, questions? Somebody? No? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Slides will be on the GitHub after the meetup, as far as I know. Right? Okay.
Thank you, Gabor. Our next speaker today is Balázs Bányai, the inventor of Rescue from Rohini. Rescue was a hackathon project at Rohini, but it became a real product. Thank you, Gabor. Balázs.
Hi everyone. So my name is Balázs Bányai and I will talk about the development of a WebRTC mobile solution today. As I said, I'm Balázs Bányai. I'm a software engineer at Rohini Rescue and I also happen to be the inventor of the application that I'm going to talk about right now. Lens is basically an application that brings a brand new user experience to the remote support industry. And why? Because I think WebRTC is an awesome piece of technology. It's a very interesting topic, but it still has its own pitfalls. We will also enumerate various technologies that we used during the development of the app. So, in order to get you into the picture, I will talk a little bit about the app itself. So, the requirement was to implement an application that provides the user an interface that can be used to stream live video image to a PC over the internet. The scenario would be the end user has a problem with his motorbike. He calls the support and they instruct him to download the Rescue Lens application. Then, with the application, he will connect to one of the vendor's field experts, and the field expert can direct him to the solving of the issue by seeing the exact same camera stream that the user sees. So basically, the technician can see through the eyes of the user. Another feature that aids the technician in helping the user is that he can also draw on the camera image, and the user will see immediately the image that the technician has drawn. The prototype has been developed in 1 week during a company competition called Hackathon, and it took a few months to implement it to production. So, WebRTC is basically a library that provides real-time communication along audio, video, and a data channel as well, which can be used for file sharing and really anything else. It has tons of cool features like adaptive bandwidth management. It's supported by major browsers widely, and it's mature enough that Google Hangouts depends on it. It has a relatively thin API, so we thought it's the best tool for the job. WebRTC, in order to establish a connection between two parties, WebRTC requires an arbitrary channel between the parties. This channel called the signaling channel. If everything is good, then one message back and forth should be enough to establish a connection, and after the signaling, WebRTC does not use this channel anymore. It uses its own architecture. It's peer-to-peer by default. You basically need stunned servers in order for the peers to discover each other's public IP address. And if peer-to-peer is not possible for some reason, you also have to have turn servers, and they will relay the data for you. The one of the major challenges with WebRTC was the building of the project itself, because checking it out and building the project took about 2 days. It's a huge repository, tons of custom build tools and configurations, and it was also a mistake to try to build it on OS X, because the Android version only builds on Linux machine. But once you build it, it's basically a native library with a Java wrapper. The API is thin, it has its advantages, but there are also pitfalls. For example, it takes complete control of the standard Android camera API, so you don't have the camera object, you can't do anything with the camera because the library owns it, and you cannot control the autofocus, nor the flash, nor anything else, basically. Even setting which camera should be used is set by a string, so it's really interesting to do it this way. Another issue that we ran into was that WebRTC also controls the rotation of the camera image. This feature cannot be turned off at all. So what happens when the user rotates the device, that before the layouts would change, triggered by the config change, the camera image will be already rotated, and then the config change will happen. So another rotation will happen. But let me show you this video. So before the actual layout change happens, the image is already rotated. It's kind of a funny user experience, but we couldn't work around this just yet. So, one of the most interesting parts in this project was the implementation of the OpenCV aided support. Basically, when the technician draws a circle on the camera stream, it will not only just transfer to the other side, to the user stream, but it's also kept in place. So, for example, if you mark a button, and even if the user moves his device, the button will still be on the focus. I'll show you this video. So this was the prototype. It was implemented in Android, and as you can see, I marked the center of the image, and even if I move the camera, it will stay in place. So, OpenCV is basically an extensive set of advanced image processing algorithms. It's distributed as a separate APK, so you don't have to build it into your own app. You can use it as a service. The algorithm is basically, it gets the first frame, detects feature points like corners as such, and every subsequent frame it will detect new feature points. Actually, it will look for the position of the previous feature points, and then it will calculate vectors from the movement of these points, and by averaging these vectors, you will get a rough estimation on how much the device has been moved. Yeah, later we had to move this feature to the PC side because, as you saw, it was working on Android, but both encoding video and doing this algorithm was just too much for a mobile device. This is what Lens main screen looks like. It's basically a pin entry screen where the user enters a code and then he will be dispatched to a technician. What you see here is the camera image is on the background. This is the iOS and that one is the Android. We were jealous of this beautiful blur effect that the iOS guys had, so we decided to implement it. And here we go, we did it. easy, but we use OpenGL shaders for this because they were basically the only option that we had because we had to implement real-time blur. So it's fast and there is no additional load on the CPU. Let me talk about a few other technologies that we use during development. So for IOC, we use GUIs because we think it's a powerful inversion of control container. It promotes constructor injection, simplifies unit testing very much. And when we decided whether to go with GUIs or choose Dagger instead, we decided to go with GUIs because it's oversimply. It's easy configuration. Of course, its negative is that it introduces runtime overhead. We also use butter knife extensively in our applications. It's basically a view injection library. It helps get rid of the superfluous find view by ID syntax. For example, you can see on that side there is the regular Android way by finding the view by the resource ID and then casting it back to the button tag. And with butter knife, you just have to put this annotation on the field and then bind all the fields with this line here. It's type safe and it's a more concise way to use views. It also eliminates the need for anonymous listeners, and the good part is that it's a Java annotation processor, so it does not require any, it does not introduce any runtime overhead. A listener would be implemented like this using butter knife. Instead of the anonymous declaration right there, you just put the on-click annotation with the appropriate resource ID on any method inside the activity class, and you will receive the button object as well. Use event bus pattern against the, we prefer event bus pattern in our applications against the regular Java interface and listeners. Usually there is a global event bus instance in the application. Subscribers need to register and publishers just post to the bus. Everyone who listens to a specific type of event will receive the event or any subclass of that event when it's dispatched. Let me show you why this is important for us. So, consider this event hierarchy right here. The connection event is the base, and these are the subclasses of it. For example, I would like to implement a notification in my application that only displays when the connection is active. So what would I do? I only subscribe to the active or inactive events. I'm not interested in the rest of the events, so I don't have to implement them. When you are implementing a regular Java interface, you have no way not to implement all the methods. You have to handle all cases. So that's why we prefer this one. The client can decide the granularity, what it's interested in. This is how the syntax interface and even bus supported solution. So you just put a subscribe annotation on the handler method, and you have exactly one parameter, which is the type of the event that you are interested in. And when any kind of change event or any subclass of it is dispatched, you will receive it right here. Eliminates the need for switch case statements, and as I said, it lets the client decide the granularity. Another interesting topic which we use in our applications are Java dynamic proxies. They are very handy to decorate large interfaces. Basically, it creates an implementation of an interface at one time. So it maps all the method invocations on a specific interface to an invocation, to an interface called invocation handler. And when the invocation occurs, you will receive the invocation in this method. You have the method, which is invoke. You have the arguments, which has been given to the actual invocation. You also have the object, which is the object that the invocation happened on. So, for example, if we have this log list dot clear, then the object will be this list because I invoke this method, the clear method of the list class on this object. So it's a very powerful tool because it lets you, for example, post to another thread in order to make a non-thread safe library thread safe. You can log all the invocations happened on an interface, or you can implement caching mechanism and whatever you like. So it's a very useful and interesting topic. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions. No one?
How does the other side of the application look like?
So the question was, how does the other side of the application looks like? Basically, we built it into the already existing infrastructure of the product. Rescue was a support tool to support PCs, Macs, and mobile devices so far, but with this tool, this range is extended, so you can support anything with Rescue now. It's basically a technician console where there is a queue where users just pop in and you just click on the user and connect with him, and you can chat and send files and all that stuff. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
I think we had a question. Okay. The speaker is today Victor Berniashi. He's a recurrent speaker in this meetup. This last talk was about the reactive Poco. Today he will talk about his own reactive library in Swift. Welcome, Victor.
Yo, welcome everybody. Great talks we had tonight. I will talk about total opposite thing. So it has nothing to do with Android, even buses, and anything, and it's even had a black background. So I like to talk about reactive programming. I'm curious who knows what is reactive programming. Who uses it on a daily basis? And who can define? Yeah, that's the hard part. So let's try to define, or at least approach it for tonight. is reactive programming a logic gate graph, or it's more like this so-called marble diagrams? I prefer to keep things simple, and for tonight I will go with the logic gates stuff. So why reactive programming matters? And here comes a little rant on backend development. So no offense, but I think backend development is pretty well defined in general. I mean, you have an incoming request, it goes through the backend layers, every layer has an input and an output, they process it somehow, and then the same happens in the reverse direction. Of course, there are asynchronous processes, workers and Opca and stuff like that, but in general, it's pretty well defined. Request response. But what about UI and UX development? I think we're all familiar with the process we have, starting with an initial idea, well-defined requirements, then the product research, then the business comes with the request, and you insert one more flag, one more if, and it becomes messy and spaghetti code. So, and for more, no, I'm almost forgot about it. For more, we all have to conform to an existing UI library in iOS. It's called UIKit, and nobody knows how it works inside. So all we have to do is to react on the incoming events from several sources such as user network, timers, etc., and react on them in callbacks, and it leads to the good old Flash-like paradigm when you have code snippets spread everywhere all around. So what can we do to handle the situation? We can write a lot of tests, we can apply design patterns, foregrounds, blah blah blah. We can use reactive programming and of course functional programming, but tonight we will talk about reactive programming. Such a surprise. So forgive me for the silly example, but I wanted to demonstrate the capabilities so far I've written to the framework. So this example is about an email field and password and stepper for some reason. And if you type some email, a non-empty email, an empty password, and you step to an even number, then the login button became enabled. And of course, there are some extra binding just for fun. So it's blue, it's enabled, it's even, it's not. I think you can get it. Let's see the code behind. No, it's not. Let's see the kind of graph behind. So how it builds up. We have the input on the left side. Of course, these inputs are controls from the UI framework, and we have the output on the right side, which are also controls in the good or interactive object-oriented world, and we have to connect them somehow in the reactive world in the middle. So first of all, we map the inputs from the controls by using a string to ball functions. For the email and password, it's a validator, pretty simple for demonstration purposes. And for the stepper, we simply checks if it emitted an even number or not. And we combine these results and bind it to the login buttons enabled property. And we saw that there was an extra text field which simply concatenates the email and the password, and we bind it to the credentials text field, And we also have to get a feedback about the stepper's value. It's a simple double to string mapping, and we bind it to the stepper value, and we filter the even numbers, and we bind it to the even number label. So, from the code side, it's a declarative description with a lot of magic, I think. So we have a usual UI button which has a special property, reactive enabled, and it defined as the email field's reactive text, value. This I will talk about the start. Values, lengths greater than 0, same applies to password field, and we map the stepper's reactive value with the simple is-even function, and we combine them as I showed in the previous slide. And here is the concatenation, and this is a bit more complex, filter involved, but at the end we also map the stepper values to a string, and this is also wasn't so interesting as I thought this afternoon. Whatever. So what is the star? Star is a simple syntactic sugar. I'm pretty happy to have custom operators, so I can create a more terse syntax. And so it's nothing special. It just gets the reactive variable's value. And what is this defined as? It's hard to define, pun intended, but it's like a map and the combine latest, and I prefer to call it reactive context. Let's see how it works. We have the stepper, we increase the number, it emits 1.0, it gets mapped to a string, and it updates the label at the end. So, as you can see, the stepper's reactive value is a child of the reactive text of the stepper variable. What are these reactive properties? These are extensions, reactive extensions written with this framework. That's my idea. So if you have a better idea, I'm open to suggestions. But so far, I had to prepare with some examples, so I write them in a fast way like this. I can show you the source code. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. But yeah, these are UI extension, kind of reactive properties, and if they are on the left-hand side, they act like an observer, but if they are on the right-hand side, they act like an emitter, signal, subject, as you wish. So what about side effects? Because reactive programming is very tempting, but you cannot write pure reactive software for the user, so you have to somehow connect to the non-reactive words. It's pretty easy. I created two helper functions. One has two parameters. The reactive variable it listens on, and the callback block, or you can chain to the end of the reactive variable. Same applies to error handling. And of course, you can create custom reactive variables, and you can perform custom logics, whatever wish. You can embed these defined as, you can reduce, filter, and more operators are on the way. So what is Windsor? That's what I figured out. You know, Windsor, reactive programming Windsor. It's a Swift-based, easy to use, declarative reactive framework, or it's a wannabe at the moment. What it takes to write a reactive framework in object in iOS? We need type safety because it's a runtime framework, and you can, if you try to write a similar framework in Objective-C, you could face with tons of bugs because of the lack of the strict type checking. So Swift provides it, and I love it. Generics, it supports several types with less code possible. Type inference, it's also about amount of code you have to write. Swift pretty good in that, except the mysterious error messages. Extension to avoid subclassing, so you shouldn't use custom UI, custom labels, custom buttons, etc. Objective-C runtime, which is a bit surprise, but extensions are not allowed to have properties, so I had to treat them and to hook up the custom getters. I had to use Swift, which is a sad thing, but we will see how it goes in the future. Functional programming support for the operators, filter, reviews, etc. And custom operators such as the star and the arrow, which I forgot to explain. It's an update. So if we go back, you can update under the wow. So you can update the reactive variables value by using this arrow. So, and and one more important thing, this trailing closure syntax sugar, which I pretty like. Swift is pretty far from Scala in terms of syntactic sugars and type system, but it's usable at least. So you shouldn't write. So as you might familiar with, for if the last parameter is a function, you can simplify the syntax like this, and that's what I use heavily in the framework. And here is my wish list. If you have connection at Apple, please ask them to add proper trade support, and I shouldn't write things like that. I shouldn't emulate abstract methods in this fucked up way. Properties to the extension, it's really small, so I don't want to use Objective-C runtime anymore. And what else? The goals, I try to keep it dry. What does it mean? That maybe you realize or not, but the actors in this reactive context are not are not passed as parameters. So if you want to extend this reactive variable, you can use any kind of other variables, which I like it because you shouldn't type twice the same variable. I'd like to make it easy to use and learn. And the last benefit, you can read the code as a specification. Let's read it together. Self-login but reactive neighbor defined as self-email field, reactive text, value length, data as zero. I won't read the whole thing, but you can, I think you got the idea. And what about the future? I like to make it open source because I need your help. I'd like to add the async extension to make it usable in a broader way. I mean, like schedulers, so you can use it for background thread and stuff like that. I'd like to add some more nice features from another reactive frameworks like timer, events, throttle, inspection. I'd like to fix the bugs I discovered today, and I'd like to optimize it because it might have some performance issues. And the last but not least, who is Vincent? Vincent is my little son. Actually, he looks better nowadays. And thank you. Questions? Of course.
What would you just stand out and be very different from what reactive offers?
So how it differs from reactive Cocoa? I have a provocative answer or a not so correct answer because I wanted to create a reactive Cocoa example to compare with my code, but I couldn't compile it on Swift, so I think that's one thing, but my serious answer is, no, you tell me. I like to keep it simple. I mean, when you get to signal of signals and embedded signals, and so we use. I think it's not a secret. We use heavily reactive Cocoa both in iOS and Mac OS X, and sometimes I have some bad feeling because it's really hard to learn, really hard to get the idea, and whenever I try to use a new operator, I mean new for me, I always, or most of the times, I realize that I misunderstood the concept of that operator, and I simply revert to the good old filter and map and stuff like that. So I like to avoid this kind of complexity, and I like to avoid this kind of white paper academic implementation. I like to make people use this framework somehow, and if you cannot visualize your business logic in a simple directed graph, I think that you might already found out. That's my opinion. So, is that an answer? Anyone else? Then thank you guys.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for coming. We have lots of pizza and please eat it, and lots of beer in the fridge. And after the pizza is sold out, we will go to Onkert, which is 1 minute from this place in the street. Please join us. Thank you.